I think it's going to pop for sure. Doing a kind of a quick raw video today, unexpected, but we had a little curbing incident with the vehicle, one of the household vehicles here. What happened was a vehicle went up against the curb, blew out both the front and rear driver's side tires. It also bent the front strut. So if you look at this strut, this is the strut that got damaged on the front of the car. You can see it's all bent right here, and then if you look at the comparison, how compressed it is from being hit in the curb, it's way more compressed than the passenger side. You gotta change these in sets. If you don't, you'll have a unlevel issue with your vehicle. So what I'm gonna do, and this makes this a little more sketchy, is normally you would take your spring clamps, put them on, compress the spring till it's loose, and then take the cap off, move the spring off, put it back on a new strut. Unfortunately, this one's already compressed, and because the cylinder's bent, it's not letting it go back out and the spring extend it the way it should to look like this one. So we have to come up with a remedy to try to make this work. This is very dangerous, especially if you're not used to doing these or you've never done this. So what we're going to attempt to do today is we're going to put some zip ties around this like we already have to kind of help clamp it. And then we're going to use these traditional spring clamps, which you guys can pick up at your local AutoZones, O'Reilly's for like 35 bucks. So we're going to put these on and then clamp it down also with these zip ties. It's an old home remedy using zip ties. Just to keep the spring compressed until we can get the bolt off the end and pull the cap off. And hopefully with these two clamps and some of these zip ties, it'll keep the spring from just bursting off. There's no other way. We've already put these on here and tried to compress, and you can see with these on, there's little to no room to compress the springs anymore. So it doesn't give us a lot of room to compress the spring to get it loose enough to pull the cap off. We're going to have to take the cap off when it's slightly under pressure, which makes it extremely dangerous. Definitely don't want to be in the path of either side of this when that happens. We don't know what the outcome of this is going to be today, but we're going to check it out. We're going to try it and see what happens, and hopefully we'll make a unique video here. So if anyone else gets into a situation where they're trying to change the springs on a wrecked strut, they kind of have an inclination on where to go. There's not a lot of videos showing an incident like this. Most of the videos circulating right now are just ones showing you how to take the spring off in general without some type of incident like this. So we'll get back to you in just a second. We'll go ahead and get this started and see what we get. All right, guys, so let's start the first step. The first step is actually putting some zip ties on the springs here. I use them in groups of 4 on either side to kind of give it a little more support. These, they just kind of slip on like so. And then what you do is you basically just tighten the end here till it gets up to full tightness, and then you just torque it down with a wrench. They recommend not using an impact drill when you're doing this because it could vibrate and cause this to slip off, and then you might have an issue. Make sure you put these 2 retention pins. They go down like that to keep this from slipping off. So we're gonna put it on as best we can and then try to loosen the front here and hope that this will actually hold. And this one's not gonna have much room for anything besides so those are directly diagonal from each other. And I'm going to use this just to compress it just a little bit because it's not, without these on, it's already compressed because of the damage of the strut, so it's not going to. You can see the springs compressing a little bit. This one, unfortunately, is already compressed as far as it's going to get pretty much. So best thing to not do is stand in front of this side or this side when you're doing this, because if something slips off, it's just going to hit you and cave in your chest or your face. So basically, I think these are as compressed as they're going to get. So now what the idea is to come over here and break this nut on the end here free and slowly wrench it off, hoping that these zip ties and these clamps will keep it from just slamming forward and throwing this cap off. And hopefully this will hold that in place without letting it fly that way. So we're going to open the garage here. We'll come back in just a second with the tools so we can start wrenching this off. Let's see what happens. All right, guys, we're going to use this offset box wrench. It's the only way to get down into this hole to that nut. You got to use an Allen wrench and a box wrench. You're basically going to put your box wrench on this like so, and then put your Allen wrench in there. And that's the only way you're able to hold this nut or the center thread in there in place while you're twisting the actual nut off. If you just take an impact and start trying to take it off, it's just going to keep spinning. This is kind of a safety way of putting this on to keep the nut from coming off by itself naturally when you're driving. It's just kind of like a locking mechanism. So we're going to go ahead and try to do that. Come on back over here. And then I know you guys aren't going to quite see the nut coming off, but we're just going to try to break it loose a little bit. Oh, shit. Oh, bro. That's pretty tight. Yeah. Oh, shit. Alright guys, so we took that wrench and the Allen wrench and we broke this nut loose, so it's loose enough to finish undoing it. We still don't know how much pressure is on this where it's going to pop. Hopefully the spring clamps and these zip ties will keep it enough to not just burst off with a lot of force. Very dangerous. Don't try this shit at home, especially if you're not a strut mechanic. We're going to go ahead and just... And I think it's going to pop for sure.
And then they might not too.
Right? Maybe with any luck. You know what I could do is bend this just a little bit this way. What's great about these snap-on tools is I can... And this is scary, guys, you know. You never know what's going to happen. Let me just take a look and make sure. Yep, that's just about to pop, guys, so... And both of those things are...
I see the boot opening up. That shaft's going to try to come out. It might not have too much.
It doesn't feel like it's... There it is, guys. That! You caught that. That is why you have to be super careful. Look at that. The spring actually, it slid around. It broke all 3 sets of the zip ties. But the spring's still good. Look at out there. See how far it shot that lid out.
And the ratchet.
You haven't seen a video like this on YouTube yet. So I'm kind of glad this happened. And look at my wrench. Shot the wrench all the way out here. The cap off. So there was still a lot of pressure on that thing. But the good thing is we got it safely, guys. Look at all these zip ties. Look at that. Busted off about 12 zip ties. So if you see that little remedy of the zip tie thing, don't trust it 100%. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do is we're gonna get ready for the next step. As you can see, this cylinder was crunched in. It's bent on this side. So that's what was keeping the spring so compressed. There wasn't a lot of choices on how to get this off. The only other option was to take it to like Pep Boys or something and have them use their machine. But that's no fun for the video. So anyways, we'll be right back and we'll get this thing reassembled. We'll show you guys how to do it. The fun part's kind of over, but you can still gain some knowledge out of this. Okay guys, come in and check out this one. So we have the other strut that wasn't damaged, and we have both of the spring coil clamps on either side, and they're actually compressed right now. That's kind of a long video to watch us sitting there compressing each spring until they get compressed enough. But when you know you have these springs compressed enough to actually take this off, which was the opposite of the other one because of the damage, you should be able to turn this cap. That means that these clamps have gone ahead and pulled the spring and the pressure off of this cap enough to spin it. So when we take this cap off now, there shouldn't be a burst of energy like there was on that broken strut, which we had no choice to do. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our little box end wrench here, and he's gonna put his Allen wrench in there again. And we're gonna go ahead and get this one started. Oops. And see, it kind of helps to have 2 people doing this, because then you have someone holding it there. You're not trying to hold this and then hold this one, and then you're in the path of destruction. So when you find yourself in a dangerous situation like this one, you got to just try to... Got it. Did we? And one thing is don't be like this. Kind of come on an angle at the very least, like I'm doing. And then kind of look at it. Yeah, it's turning.
Be careful, please. There might be a little bit of pressure.
So see, this is dangerous. You gotta let your nuts drop if you want to do shit like this, because no one wants to get hit in the dome with one of these caps or end up in the hospital with broken ribs or whatever the case may have been, wherever this thing hits you. So I would recommend once you get it started to take this off for just a second. Pull that wrench out. Take a little bit of your brake free, spray it on the end of that bolt. Just a little bit. That'll help loosen it so there's not so much tension. Once you get, like I said, the majority of this started, and you can take it off and just use a socket wrench with a socket to finish like we did. And actually we'll do that now because it's actually loose enough that we don't need to use this one. So like the last one, you seen that thing burst off. It shot the end of this cap and all the guts about 20-25 feet out into the yard, which means that if you were standing anywhere in this vicinity, you're gonna end up getting hurt pretty bad. So the biggest thing is to just probably, if you have a store close by, which we don't, we live outside the city, is to just go ahead and have them professionally clamp that for you. They've got machines with guards over it. They'll keep this from bursting up. Now, as you can see, this one is easily moving. Even the top's moving. So with any luck, and we still don't know 100%, you know, we could take this off and it could still just burst. The idea is to just get this nut off the end. Don't use an impact, because you'll have your arm right here in the front, and that's where it's in the line of fire. It's better to just take your time and use this. And so this is the other front strut. You see that again, guys? So there's still a little bit of pressure, but there it is. We've got the strut spring compressed and ready to go. Here's the old one. This one wasn't damaged because we didn't hit it in a wreck, so you can see that the shaft right here is still sticking out. It's still got some pressure. You can see that there's not much pressure left, so kind of shows that these struts are on their way out. The new one I could push in, it wouldn't come out that fast. So now what we're going to do is we're going to take our old struts and we're going to go ahead and put them up here, and then we're going to get the spring back on and start putting the new caps on and the new boots and the stopper, which is this little piece that comes out of the center. That's your stopper, so that's going to be replaced. New cap, new strut. We'll reuse the old spring and this plate right here. We'll come back to you guys in just a second when we get that started. Okay, new strut. This is the passenger side one. Since we just got done uncompressing the spring, we're going to go ahead and attempt to put this back together. Here's the new strut. As you can see, it raises up, pops a little wheelie. It's happy to be finally released. And that's where we're going to put that spring back on here, put the bumper, the new bumper on and whatnot, get it put back together, and then we'll release the tension on the spring. I don't want to gnaw this all up, guys, so I'm going to try to put like a little rag right here. Just to keep it from binding up, or that one right there. Just without pinching it too hard, but not too extended. So now what we need to do is we need to get our little boot here. You're gonna put your boot together. Actually, here's the old one. So that would normally just go on over this. This little boot would go on first. This bumper would go over this, and then that would go over that, and then it would just sit like this. Then we take the spring, and actually we put the spring on first, then we put this on, and then the cap back on. So take your old bumper, and this is the new one. Which way was that bumper facing on this side? So the fat end's down at the bottom? Okay, I see. So what we want to do is you want to take your bumper off of this. You want to take your old bumper off. It should just kind of slide off like so. And you're going to take your new one and put it in there like that. Kind of just pops in there like so, kind of like that. Then you're going to take your bumper here, you're going to slide that on over. without fit. That seems kind of tight, but I think the other one is just a little bit. So you guys, nothing's that easy. Sometimes you just gotta work with it with this bumper and this one.
Sort of like swivel it on there.
Is it going this way?
The way you had it.
This way?
Yeah.
It's got it. It just kind of goes in there, huh? There's not a real way for it to hold it. It just kind of.
See that groove on there? As long as that groove is popped in there.
Alright. Yeah. I think that's it.
There it is. See, you just turn it on there, and look, boom.
Alright. So that sits over this, like so. The spring is going to go on first, so I'll let you hold that. And this is the dangerous part again, guys. This spring is still under a lot of tension, so it could actually burst off at any second. Thus, so we gotta. Now, if you look on this side, guys, come on over here and look down here. The end of this spring's got to go in this little notch, like right there. So if you don't have that spring, the end of this resting in there, then you don't have it on right. So if you have it this way, watch, like that, it's not right. You gotta get it all the way down to right there. Then what you do is you take this, you're gonna slide this bumper back on over, like so. And then your old groove marks that are on this cap, as you can see, the spring kind of wraps around and ends right there in that old groove. So that's where the end of this is gonna go on. So that's where you know to kind of rest it, which is right there. All right, guys, so we went ahead and took the spring clamps off and we put them back on the spring, and we're slowly but surely getting this clamped. As you can see, they say not to use an impact. The impact can vibrate these clamps and cause them to slide down this way together and not be evenly apart, which can be detrimental to your health. So just take your time. The idea is to compress this enough to get this nub to come out so we can fit this back over here like this and then get that nut on. Once we do that, we should be able to release the spring pressure, and then we're good. We can do the next one. So instead of sitting here late making you guys watch how boring this part is, I wanted to just give you a quick clip of what we're doing. Once we get that cap back on, we'll go ahead and tune right back into where we left off. Okay, so we've come back. We've tightened these springs, and guys, take a good look at this. You can see that this one's here and this one's kind of down here. They should actually be directly across from each other, but because we don't have any room because of where the spring's hitting the end of the caps here, we have to kind of do it where we could get it. We went ahead and got the nut majority on. If you look here, that's the nut, so we're safe now. This isn't going to pop off. Even if these spring clamps were to slip off, it would stay on. We're going to just finish tightening this, and then we'll loosen these. And this driver's side strut that was all damaged that we showed you at the beginning of the video is done. Now it's ready to just be put back on. We're not going to show you how to put the spring on the second one because we kind of just did that here. This video is mostly about just showing you the dangers of what could happen under certain circumstances when changing this, and thus we proved that earlier when it burst off. So we'll come back to you when we're done with this, show you what they look like all changed out. And then that's the end of this video. If you guys want to see any videos where they're actually removing the strut completely from start to finish under a vehicle and then putting them back on, there's plenty of other videos out there that show that. I don't feel like I should do one of those because there's like 600 more to watch. But there wasn't a video that showed you the particular issue we were having with this strut being damaged and then trying to compress it. So we kind of got the point out there of what we were looking for today in the video. So we'll be right back. Okay, so we got the bolt on the end completely tightened up and in place. It's already bottomed out, can't tighten it any tighter. Now it's time to loosen the spring clamps. So we're gonna loosen them up a little bit at a time. Now's the time where it might be okay to actually use a impact to loosen it. And just do a little bit at a time, don't be in a rush. Just be patient, because this is dangerous and a little bit of rushing can cause a lot of damage. You just wanna do it.
Wait, hold on. Is this real crooked, this plate?
No, it's supposed to be like that.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, you would think that this would be flush onto the bottom, but looking at them before, when I took them right off the car, they have that
already
angle,
huh?
that angle, yeah. So a little bit more. A little bit more on this side. That one's pretty much almost all the way loose. That one's of loose. I think it's already loose, so
You can loosen it a little bit more. There we go.
loosen this one a little more. Now you can just pull these little pegs back in. That one. And then you might have to loosen it by hand just a little bit. And push that down. And that's kind of sucks because it's trapped in there. There we go.
There we go. Now loosen it. There you go.
So that one's off.
Loosen this one a little bit.
Pull that down. Pull that one down. And there's 2 zip ties I put on there, guys. And the reason I put those zip ties on there like that was to try to keep the spring coil clamps from sliding downwards on me, which you seen what it did when it popped off. It destroyed those zip ties like nothing. So this probably wouldn't have been really a idea that would work, but there it is. So that's it.
Those clips that you put there underneath those clamps, they probably did a better purpose than the other ones did.
I bet you're right. So now look, guys, this was the damaged strut that was all compressed at the beginning of the video. We've got all the new gear on, we got the top back on and the string put back in place. This is the brand new strut now ready to go back on. We're gonna do the same for the other side.
Difference.
Yeah.
It's broken.
Okay guys, so we're just finishing up putting the spring back on the other strut from the other side of the vehicle, the 2 front struts. Once we get this spring crimped down and compressed enough, we'll be able to put this cap on the final side here, put the nut back on, and release the spring pressure. And these struts are ready to go back on the vehicle. So, despite all the difficulties we had and the dilemma we had with the strut being bent and us not being strut people, I mean, I've never changed springs on the strut. I've changed struts, the quick kits where everything's just together. You just pop this whole assembly out and put the whole new one in that has a spring. But yeah, so this is a good experience for us, and if you're watching this video, it's going to teach you a little bit about the dangers and the alternatives you have to do this by yourself. Just keep in mind when you're using this tool, guys, to oil these threads, use some type of oil. Don't do it dry, because that can cause these to bind up and not turn smoothly and literally have an issue. You don't want this to break or damage in the middle of compressing it. But we're going to go ahead and finish clamping these on. We'll get the top, show you us tightening that up so you can see the last little part of it. And that's it. These guys are ready to pop on. Maybe we'll show you guys a clip of us installing them back on, but for the most part, this video was just about what you would need to do to get these springs compressed with some minor issues. Be right back. Okay guys, so we've gotten the spring compressed enough. You can see the clamps are still on. I even put some zip ties on the end here to keep this clamp from sliding on the spring a little bit. Not that that's going to really do a whole bunch, but it's just some extra steps to be cautious. Got this on. We're going to finish torquing down the end bolt here, as you can see. And then we can just relieve the pressure, and then both the struts are completed. Both the spring coils have been changed. Now we just put these back on the car. So when you start to put this on the end and you barely get it threaded on, after you start to get on, come back, do a few more on this, tighten a few more, do a couple more turns on this. And once you get that thread really going, then you don't have to keep compressing these anymore. Sorry about that, guys, the chair fell. But you don't have to keep compressing these. You can just finish tightening this until the shaft in the center starts spinning like it's doing. Once it starts spinning, then you have to take your box wrench and put your Allen in there, like so. And you can come on this side, buddy. It's okay, just stand about right there. Cool. So you're gonna take it, oh, this is an 18, I gotta turn it over to the 19. Okay, so it's a 19, then you put your Allen in there to hold the center shaft from spinning. And then he's gonna put a little breaker bar. Make sure you guys don't, he's doing that so he doesn't bump into the threads and actually bang a thread. But yeah, once you get that on like that, I can just kind of use it as a small breaker bar, and then I'm just gonna take this and I'm just gonna turn that like so. And you can see that the Allen wrench is holding the center shaft from moving. And you're gonna just do this until it tightens up completely. You shouldn't be able to spin this anymore. Once you do that, then you know that it's on. And that's almost there, about right here, I think. Yeah, that's it. So now that that's on, we can take that off. And now it's just time to let the bolts loose, or the spring clamps loose, and then that's it, guys. We're ready to put these on the car. I'll show you what it looks like. It is okay to use your impact once you get to this point. because even if this pops off somehow, the end's not coming off, so the spring's not going to fly off. So we'll just slowly let this off, a little bit at a time on each one. Wow. Whoa. This one too. This one too. There it is. Once you're done, you have to pull these off like that, and you can see that this is all loose. These are loose. See how this gets jammed in between here and there? That's how much room we didn't have, literally, to be able to put those clamps on, because these springs don't have a lot of links to work with. So you kind of got to do it in a tight area, but if you find yourself with that clamp being pinched on the spring a little bit, you want to cut these ties off, because that keeps it from moving. So we'll cut those off. Just like this, real easy. Take one off, take the other one off. We can just tap this. Stand over this way just a little bit. And then you can actually loosen this a little bit more just to be safe. Or you can actually tighten it. There we go. Now, that's a little bit tight. Ugh. Like that. So, no real easy way, guys. It's just, there's kind of some small adjustments you guys end up having to make, and you know, just to make this work. You know, if this one's still a little bit tight, just loosen this a little bit more. And this is kind of stuck on this side. Same thing, it's kind of jammed up in here, so we're just gonna loosen it. And that's it. Once you get that done, then basically your strut's done. So I'll just cut off these last two little clips right here. These zip ties I put on to kind of hold the spring clamps from sliding on the spring. As you guys can see, now, there it is, second one. So we have two of them, driver, passenger front, two new tires. We're gonna go ahead and take a break. We'll come back, show you a couple clips of us throwing it back on the car, and that's it, guys. That's all I can really show you today. Okay, so guys, the strut's just sitting in here loose. I just grabbed it and put it up in here. We're gonna put it back together. So the idea is to slide it up in here and be careful of these brake lines and whatnot. You don't want to wreck these or push against them and break them off or bend your rods or anything down here. So just be gentle. I just kind of have it resting here, so I'm going to put it up in here until the 3 bolts go up in the top into the holes up here, and then I'll bolt the top holes first, and then we'll get it lined up. So if you come up here to the top now, and I'm just going to kind of hold the strut, and you'll see that I'm just going to get these bolts lined up just like that. And look at that, I can hold one hand under there and push up against it and use my free right hand and just come right up top and just get these 3 bolts on in the meantime, just to hold the kind of strut down in place. You don't want to tighten these all the way, guys. Just get the bolt on there and then just tighten it down by hand, just like so. See? Okay, so like I was saying, once you get up here and you get these 3 bolts on, then you're going to come around down here and you're going to line the strut here until you can get these 2 bolts in. So you may have to play with this, move it around a little bit up and down, leave the bolts up on here kind of loose up on top, so you have a little bit of play down here until you can get these bolts through. Sometimes it's a little tricky. The other side, the driver's side, went right through. These ones we had to wobble this around to get them in there. Not bad, wasn't enough to worry about it like there's something going wrong, but I have the 2 nuts, so you're just gonna stick on the 2 nuts on this side like so. Just get them all hand tight, get everything put on first like so. You can take this rod, end links or whatever you call it, and that's just going to go right through there. And then there's going to be another nut that I have in here. And guys, I kept all the nuts safe, so that way I can have them to put on this. So, all right, this one's going to go through the brake line. The brake line is just going to go right under here. I'll put that through. And I just take my socket, tighten that up. Alright. I need to find my nut. I don't know where the nut is for this guy right here, the end link. So I'm gonna go ahead and find the nut that goes on there. And then basically I'll just tighten up these 2 bolts to torque, tighten this up to torque. I'll stick all my little wires back on the little hooks. There's another one right here that's on the back, just slides right in, just like that one did, to hold it in place right. So now your wires are in place, your brake line needs to be bolted all the way down. Put your nut on here, torque these, torque the 3 up top, and you're done. And that's it, guys. So with that being said, you guys got to check out all the dangers of this today, and some of the techniques to try to get things apart without all the proper tools. It was a little bit unsafe, but you know what? I've watched mechanics do some real crazy stuff. So we were able to get both the struts back in real easily. I'll throw the tires on, get the car's alignment done tomorrow, and we're basically good to go for now. So I appreciate you guys tuning in for this video. Don't forget, Review It TV, subscribe. We've got other videos coming out later on. You never know what it's going to be. You won't know unless you subscribe and tune in. But thanks until next time. All right, folks. Quick little test drive. We just took the car down the street about a mile or so and got up in speed and turned some sharp turns. Everything, you can see that even the alignment wasn't even off, but I'm still going to have it done anyways. But yeah, just to kind of follow up, it's looking pretty.
How did I get